Welcome everybody to our monthly Chocolatey product live stream for September 2024. Today we're going to look at the changes made for the upcoming 0.13.0 release of Chocolatey Central Management. The main changes you'll notice we're going to go through are to the user interface, and we'll be walking through those and talking about our journey to WCAG compliance, as well as a reminder of the great time-saving features in Chocolatey Central Management. As a reminder, we run 2 live streams every month on the first and third Thursday. This live stream today is where we spotlight Chocolatey products, important features, and both recent and upcoming releases. On our other live stream, which is on the third Thursday of each month, is called Unpacking Software, and that includes news, chat, and opinion on the world of software and software management. You can watch us live or catch up later with the podcast for that one. Details will be in the description below. To get notified of all the great Chocolatey content by joining our community hub on Discord, subscribing to us on YouTube, and clicking the notification bell. That's really important, and that way you'll be notified of when we're streaming. You can also follow us on Twitter or X, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Twitch. We're on all the things, and you can find those links at the bottom of our homepage, chocolatey.org. Scroll right to the bottom and you'll find the links there, or in the description of wherever you found this content. We also want to make sure that the content we're streaming here today is what you want to see. We've put together a very quick 10-second survey that you can actually complete. I'll put that on screen in just a second, and we'd really appreciate you completing that at the end of the stream today. You can find that link in the description as well. So my name is Paul Broadwith, and I'm the Technical Engineering Manager here at Chocolatey Software. I lead the engineering team that's responsible for the products that we'll be talking about today, and my co-host is back to Gary Ewan Park today. Gary, do you want to introduce yourself? If I can bring you on stream, that would help. There we go, there's the button.
I can certainly try, yes. So my name is Gary Ewan Park. I am a principal software engineer here at Chocolatey. I think that's all I've got today. Normally I say something, but I'm just thinking that people have probably heard my spiel before, Paul, so
Okay.
we'll wing it.
Okay. You could make something up. You could be an international superstar next week and something the month after. Anyway, so thanks, Gary, for that. I've put the link to the live stream feedback on the screen there. So it's ch0.co/stream survey, all one word. And you can, if you go to that URL, it will literally take you 10 seconds. There's 3 questions in there, and only one of them is mandatory. The other 2 are optional. That mandatory one is really just to rate the stream here today. We really appreciate any feedback we get. We do read all of the feedback, and we do make sure that we discuss it as well and decide if we're going to, make changes and improve things for the stream. So you can influence what we're actually doing here in terms of content and how we work with our live streams. We've covered Chocolatey Central Management in a few live streams this year, including a Back to Basics live stream in August. There we covered what is Chocolatey Central Management, what it does, and how you can use it to make your life easier and save time. If you actually missed that live stream, you can find it on our YouTube channel. And also on our blog. We put a blog post together for that as well. And you can go to blog.chocolatey.org. I will pop that onto the screen once I finish speaking. And you can find it on there as well, and you can pick that up. But we'll also be covering some of it today as well. So just a little bit of history on Chocolatey Central Management. The first stable release of Chocolatey Central Management was back in May 2019, when it provided the kind of basic functionality that we've built on today. We've come a long way since then. We now have basic and advanced deployments, for example, and they allow you to schedule recurrent deployments to groups of computers. And those deployments can just be simple Chocolatey commands, Choco install, Choco uninstall, those kind of things, or full-blown PowerShell scripts. You can go all the way to that. So you can actually run full-blown PowerShell scripts on your endpoints that are being managed within Chocolatey Central Management. And it's all from that web interface as well. Gary's actually going to take us through a demo today, looking at the upcoming 0.13.0 release, the kind of interface changes, as I mentioned at the beginning. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're doing that and WCAG compliance, and then we're going to kind of move on to some of the features that Chocolatey Central Management provide. So I'm going to turn over to Gary. He's going to pick up the demo part of it. If there's any questions, Gary, coming through in the chat, I'll let you know. And to everybody who's watching this today, if you do have any questions, please drop them into the chat and we'll make sure we pick those up. So, Gary.
Thank you very much. feel free to go ahead and share my screen just now. We'll just kind of jump in. Where I thought we would start is in a roundabout kind of a way before talking about kind of and showcasing the functionality or some of the functionality changes that are coming in this release. I thought I would take a step back and say, why are we making some of these changes? So the first part is, if you've already got Chocolatey Central Management installed, or you've had a previous version of Chocolatey Central Management, you know that there is a dependency on what was called .NET Core and what now is just called .NET. And in the 0.12.0 release, we took a dependency on the .NET 6 version of that. So on this machine that I've got in front of me here, I installed Chocolatey Central Management 0.12.0, and I've now upgraded to the pre-release version of 0.13.0. So the reason I'm telling you that is because what you'll see here is I've got both the .NET 6 version of the packages as well as the .NET 8 version of the packages. So what I'm basically pointing out there is that in this new release of Chocolatey Central Management, we are changing the dependencies to be .NET 8 rather than .NET 6. So if on your machine, if you run the .NET -info command and it's still outputting, I would need to do a refresh there for that to come through. If you're running .NET -info and you're still got .NET 6 being output, then you are not going to be in a position to install CCM. Now, as you install the Chocolatey Central Management packages, it's going to want to upgrade those packages for you. So the end result of that is that you will have .NET 8 on your command line, and you will have the new Chocolatey Central Management packages ready to be used. Okay. Why is that a big deal? The reason that this is a big deal, and the reason that we are making this change in this coming release of Chocolatey Central Management, is that .NET 6 becomes end of life in November. So we want to get ahead of the curve in terms of making a version of Chocolatey Central Management available that takes dependency on the new long-term support version of .NET, which is .NET 8. So you might ask, why are we going? Why did we miss out .NET 7? So there's a long sordid history there, and I'd point you into a direction of the Microsoft documentation for this. But essentially, the even versions of .NET are what are referred to as the long-term support versions of .NET, and the .NET 7 are the interim ones, which you can take a dependency on, you can make use of them, but we've opted to stick in the longer-term support variants of .NET, so we'll always be in the even version. So .NET 6, we've now gone to .NET 8, and ultimately it will be .NET 10, assuming that the naming convention stays the same. So that is the biggest change in terms of dependencies. The other one is that the .NET ASP.NET Core module package, this previously was pinned in the version range, I believe, between 16 and 17. We've now bumped that again up to the next one. So it's not a different package in the same way that the other two were. It's the same package. It's just a different version range for that to work. And that's the one that goes into IIS to make the Chocolatey Central Management website work as expected under IIS. So those are the package dependency changes that I wanted to mention. So from the outside in, or looking from the outside in, the upgrade should be seamless. It will just install it'll just upgrade the packages as it normally would. But under the hood, there is some movement there. So it's just to make you aware, because if you are, depending on your organization or depending within your environment, you may need to download and internalize those packages into your internal repository before you'll be able to make use of them as part of your installation. So it's just something to keep in mind. This will all be documented on the website, obviously, but just to give you a heads up here in this conversation. I was going to say something else there, and I've now just had I've completely forgotten where my train of thought was going to go with that. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. Oh, Paul's just popped up. Was you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to just support you, Gary, in your train of thought being lost, and then we could kind of reminisce a little bit, and then it'll pop into your head, and
I'm sure it
it'll
will.
all look really seamless, like we kind of planned it all. So, um, yeah,
Thanks for that.
I can also sing a song while you try and remember
I
if
have remembered what I was going to say.
see that's
Um, so,
exactly what I
along with, so this one is to do with, he's gone away again. This one is to do with a change in .NET itself. So within .NET, the .NET framework brings along with it libraries for connecting to SQL Server. So SQL Server has, for the longest time, had a default connection string. That default connection string includes things like the server name, the database name, an optional username and password. It might have had other stuff in there in terms of how many active record sets you could have had connected at the same time when you're connecting to that SQL Server. But one thing that .NET 8 has brought along with it is additional parameters for connecting to a SQL Server instance. And that is whether or not by default you trust the server certificate that may or may not be available on your SQL Server instance. Previously, that attribute wasn't required on the connection string, but now it is. The decision has to be made at the point of connection whether or not you want to trust any given certificate or not. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because the as part of the installation of the Chocolatey Central Management packages, we persist, obviously encrypted, we persist the connection string in the application configuration file. So what we've had to do is we've had to make a change to that connection string at the point of upgrade so that it encompasses that extra requirement if it's needed on your SQL Server instance. So again, it should be completely transparent, but if you are doing a fresh installation of Chocolatey Central Management, you may need to augment any scripts that you might have stored where you are setting up that connection string or where you persisted it in some other mechanism. That connection string may no longer be valid based on the changes to the SQL Server client libraries uh, with the uplift to .NET 8. So it's a small change. It's all you need to do is add potentially another attribute or configure it differently based on your SQL Server configuration. But it's just something to bring to mind. But it's to do with the uplift to .NET 8 and the changes to the client libraries for SQL Server. So that was, I think, all I wanted to talk about there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before going into Chocolatey Central Management itself is to talk about some of our other website assets. Bear with me because there is a reason that I'm doing this, and the reason will hopefully become apparent as I go through this. But Chocolatey software is we own and operate, or we create and we operate the package manager for Windows, and we have a bunch of other commercial products that go along with that. But in order to facilitate that work, we actually have quite a number of websites. So what do I mean by that? We have docs.chocolatey.org as an example. We have blog.chocolatey.org. We have chocolatey.org. We have chocolateyfest.com. We have boxstarter.org. And then we have some other websites that we maintain internally. So why do you care, and what does this have? What could this possibly have to do with Chocolatey Central Management? Well, in order to make the maintenance and updating of these websites as seamless as possible, our resident website guru, Steph, has created some artifacts that help with that. And one of those is what we refer to, or what Steph refers to, as the Chocolatey Design System. The Chocolatey Design System encompasses things like our brand, the foundations of what we do and how we operate that brand. It includes things like theming modes, backgrounds, what we use to build our website assets, etc. And basically, this design system is, if you're unsure about doing something on a website, come and look at our design system, and then within that design system, it will tell you how to do things. Now, the culmination of all of that work is this thing called Chocotheme. And Chocotheme is an NPM package that encompasses all of that design information. It includes all of the common logic, common design, common components, common everything is all wrapped up within this Chocotheme package. That Chocotheme package is then pushed to npmjs.org, and it's utilized on all of these front-end web assets. So anytime we make a change, and by we, obviously, I mean Steph. So anytime Steph makes a change, whether that's to how we build things, the look and feel, how we change things, the idea is that we change it in one place within Chocotheme, and then that change then flows down through all of our web assets by updating that package. And it's Chocotheme that's been responsible for things like the consistent dark mode and light mode across all the websites. It's Chocotheme that's responsible for handling things like the search that happens both on Chocolatey, docs.chocolatey.org, as well as things like community.chocolatey.org. Actually, I never put that website up here. That's one of the other ones that should be up here. Community.chocolatey.org is one of our other web assets that I should have had in my tabs that I've got open here. So, again, I still haven't gotten to the answers to the question. Why is this important? Well, one of the main scopes of work out with the uplift to .NET 8 is to add Chocotheme into the Chocolatey Central Management website. The reason that we want to do that is for a couple of reasons. The main one being that, again, that as we add new things into Chocotheme, into our brand, into how we do things, into how we want to style things, we'll put that work into Chocotheme, and that will then flow down through to all of our websites, including the Chocolatey Central Management website. So that's the first one. The other part of it, and Paul hinted at this in the intro, is that one of the commitments that we've made with the Chocolatey Central Management website is that we are going to do our due diligence and best effort to make it WCAG compliant. So WCAG is the web something accessibility guidelines. I should have prepared more for that acronym than I did prior to this meeting. But it's a standard that says what is the best way to make this website accessible to everyone who wants to use a website, whether that is fully able-bodied people, whether it's people with eyesight disabilities, whether it's people with other ailments that prevent them using the website in a certain way. So the WCAG guidelines puts in place best practices and recommendations for making that website as accessible as possible. So what we're committing to is that we're committing to trying to make CCM follow those best principles. And by doing that within Chocotheme and making the different aspects that we can within Chocotheme WCAG compliant, that means that things flow in reverse at that point. Thanks, whoever that was. I can only assume that was Paul. WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So I got it was the C that I got wrong. So Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So by doing the work within Chocotheme to make CCM, the Chocolatey Central Management website, WCAG compliant, it means that we can then backfill some of that learnings into our other web assets, which are docs.chocolatey.org, chocolatey.org, community.chocolatey.org, etc. So with that in mind, and having explained all of that, if I now log into the Chocolatey Central Management website, it will hopefully not look too dissimilar from what you've seen before, but there are enough changes, hopefully, that it will make it clear that we have made some fundamental changes to how the pages are put together in order to make them as accessible as possible. So an example would be that some of the colors have changed because some of the colorings that we had weren't particularly clear between, or they weren't accessible in terms of the difference in the colors between the background and the foreground. So we've taken advantage of some of the tools that come along with WCAG to make that delineation between the colors as best as possible. Other things in terms of accessibility include how we would navigate via the keyboard. So instead of not being able to get access to certain elements on the screen, it's now possible using the tab key, which I'm hitting here on my keyboard, to navigate between those elements on the page. Whereas before, if you tabbed around the Chocolatey Central Management website, the tab, rather than going to the next logical item in the list, it would jump across the page to the other side, which wasn't very helpful if someone's navigating the website, for example, via a screen reader. So we're hoping to have, encompass some of that functionality and capture some of those changes as well. Other things in that area would be changes to make it much more clear about um, what can be done on a page. So this here, minimize sidebar, we've got that calling out there to make it clear that that's what is happening when you click that button. As opposed to it was a single button up at the top here that wasn't, although it was for full sighted people, it was kind of a natural jump that's the button that would minimize the sidebar. Anyone who's navigating via this screen reader, it wouldn't be immediately clear that that was possible. So by putting this front and center somewhere that the screen reader is able to see it, it makes it much easier and much more accessible to people who are wanting to do that. The other things I want to point out is Chocolatey Central Management for a while has had dark mode in the same way that our other web assets have. But with the introduction of CCM, it's just that the theming is much closer to our other assets. So if I go back to, for example, here, and I switch to dark mode over here on the docs site, then there's a much more similarity between our theming, our branding, what is Chocolatey. That's just been brought over to the Chocolatey Central Management website in the same way. So the 0.13.0 release of Chocolatey Central Management is essentially those two things that I've just described. It is an uplift to use Choco theme for the purposes of maintainability of our web assets, as well as introducing WCAG, and also to uplift the underlying framework that Chocolatey Central Management is built on, and bumping it from .NET 6 up to .NET 8. And that is what we are going to be shipping as 0.13.0 of Chocolatey Central Management in due course. So, Paul, before jumping to anything else, anything that you wanted to discuss regarding that? Or should we just go on to the next section?
I think it's worthwhile pointing out that we're on a journey to WCAG compliance.
Yes.
So we've kind of started here with the new interface, as you said, using Choco theme, which gives us that consistent theme across all of our products and all of our websites. But it's not a moving target. It's something we're aiming to get to. So this is the first step on that journey for WCAG compliance. We know there's additional work to do there before we go for the compliance itself. But we're moving forward with that, and it'll help people get that consistent theme across everything that we have. So it was really just the journey part to emphasize this isn't us finished. We're just starting that journey.
Correct. So what we're not declaring is that the 0.13.0 release of Chocolatey Central Management is WCAG compliant. We're not saying that, but we have looked at the WCAG specifications and the guidelines that go with it, and we have started, as you say, we started on that journey to do as much as possible to get to that point within this release. But in the follow-up releases, we will continue to work on both Choco Theme and the Chocolatey Central Management website to get us to the point where we can state, and I'm assuming that we could claim a badge and put that somewhere, whether that's on chocolatey.org, to state that Central Management website is WCAG compliant.
Yes, yeah, that's where we'll be going. So as you said, it'll be a few releases, but ultimately this is where we're wanting to get to. This is a commitment that we've made, and that compliance is ultimately where we want to be.
I'm just playing with the dark mode now because I noticed how bright that screen was on the video. So I'll put it back to dark mode. So like I say, without going into lots of minutia, that is essentially what is going to be the 0.13.0 release of Chocolatey Central Management. So what think we discussed next is we would go over some of the more recent functionality that we have shipped with previous versions of Chocolatey Central Management, just as a recap, and then field any questions that might come from the chat.
Yeah. That is, I kind of said at the beginning as well. Chris went over some of this in the last live stream that we had back in August when went back to basics and looked at what Chocolatey Central Management is. And we've looked at some of this over previous releases of what Chocolatey Central Management is, what it does, and the new features that's coming in there. But I think it's great to get the opportunity to demonstrate just the real power behind Chocolatey Central Management, and that it's not just chocolatey packages that you can manage with it. There's obviously as I mentioned, the advanced deployment with the PowerShell scripts in there as well, so you can use it for that, not just purely just chocolatey things. For managing those chocolatey packages. So I think it's worthwhile demonstrating that again, letting people see it and letting people see the power and the simplicity behind it.
Sure, you can do that. So let's just lay the groundwork. So although on my dashboard here, it says I have got 113 managed computers with upwards of 3,500 installed packages and 61 unique packages. That's a lie. I'll be completely honest. This is a single VM running in the cloud. And what I've done is I have spoofed some data into my Chocolatey Central Management database just so that I have got some data to work with. So by no means have I got that many computers running and checking into Central Management. But for the purposes of the demo, I just thought it was better to have some data to work with. So the way that I've always liked to describe Chocolatey Central Management, as well as some of the actual core functionality of Chocolatey itself, is that we've got these building blocks that we build up on top of every time we do some major releases of Chocolatey. So where that started, kind of Paul hinted at it in the intro there when he spoke about the first version of Chocolatey Central Management, when we first shipped it, and when you compare that to where we are today, there's been lots of evolutions along that path. But all of it has been based on let's get some core functionality working and then build up on top of it once we know that it's working the way that we want it to. So a prime example of that is in the form of deployments or deployment plans. So what do I mean when I say deployment plan? So to me, a deployment plan within Chocolatey Central Management is the ability to take an action on a single or a group of computers. And then once I know what that action is, whether that's a simple action or whether it's a more complicated PowerShell driven action, I then know where I want to deploy it to. And then the natural evolution of knowing those things is, well, I know at a specific time when I want that to happen. So when we first created Chocolatey Central Management, the concept of deployment plans didn't exist. All we had, all we had, was the concept of we have computers reporting into Chocolatey Central Management, and then reporting on what software was available on each of those machines. And then, as we went through the different releases of Chocolatey Central Management, that's when things like reports came into play. So we've now got the ability to report on software that's outdated across some of those machines, and I can get a report on that. I haven't got one yet, but I could create an outdated report. But in my case, I haven't got as much data as I thought I had, so it's not actually got any outdated bits of software on it, so I can't create an outdated software report. But once we had the ability to report computers in with the software, we then created this concept of a deployment plan. And in the first release of deployment plans, what it was possible to do was to create a basic or a advanced deployment plan, but and have that action be taken on a pre-configured group of computers. and that was it. But then in a subsequent release, we added the concept of being able to do a schedule. So we know that when this action, we know when we want this action to be taken, and it might be sometime in the future. And then we, at the same time, we also added in the ability to repeat that on a known set of a known period. So whether that's daily, weekly, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, we've added it into the what I would refer to as the basic functionality for scheduling. But one of the tasks that we have, one of the tasks that we're planning for a future release of Chocolatey Central Management is to make this scheduling much more. I'm hesitant to use the word complicated, but it's simply put, how do I say that? So what we've provided here with the basic functionality for scheduling is that there's always going to be that other way that people refer to something, whether it's every 3 weeks or every 5 weeks or every second Tuesday on a leap year, etc. There's all these sort of combinations that having scheduling on in a basic format, it's not going to fit for everyone. So we have prototyped and we have stubbed out ideas as to how we can keep the idea of simplicity within Chocolatey Central Management, but also provide the more complicated scheduling requirements. So again, it's those building blocks. We've proven out the fact that we can do reporting into Chocolatey Central Management. We've proven out that we can do deployment plans to a fixed set of computers. And now we've proven out that we can do deployment plans to fixed groups of computers within a simple scheduling pattern. And then we'll build on that again to make those scheduling requirements much more fine-grained, so that people who require it can make use of that. But people who are happy with the simplistic scheduling, which is just every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, etc., they can stick to using that. So we'll defer to the simple way of doing it, but provide the functionality to extend that as and when required. The other thing that we built on top of within the most recent released version of Chocolatey Central Management, the 0.12.0 release, was this concept of being able to create a deployment plan essentially from anywhere within the Chocolatey Central Management user interface. So what do I mean by that? So let me just walk through the process of where we were before 0.12.0. So let's imagine that I want to create a deployment plan for a single computer. So in order for that to happen, what I would have had to do is I would have had to go into groups, and I would have had to first create a group. So let's just call it Gary's machine. So in here, I'll find my machine. So I happen to know that my machine is called CCM Demo. So I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to create that group. So now that I've created that group, I know that I've got a target for my deployment plan. I know the group, and I know what computers are contained within that group. So now that I have that, I can now go to the deployment plan screen, and let's just let's start from the beginning. Actually, I'll go ahead and delete this one that I created before. I'm going to create a new deployment plan, and now let's say I want to add a deployment step. So I want to take a piece of action, and let's just say I want to install my favorite bit of software, which is Windorstat. Anyone who knows me and anyone who knows these demonstrations, I tend to always use the Windorstar package because it's a very simple package to install, and it's also a very great bit of software under the hood. So I would know what action I wanted to take, and I would know where I wanted that action to be taken, and that action was on the Gary's machine group, because that's the group that I've created that contains all the machines that I want to deploy this step to. So I've done that work. Now I might then have something else I want to do. So I might also want to install another package. So let's just say VLC. So again, here I would need to say I need to come in here. I need to find that group again. It's not called CCM Demo, sorry. It's called Gary. So again, so I've now got two pieces of action that I want to take on that single machine. So with that in play, I could then save that, and then I could go back to my deployment plans, and I could then walk that deployment plan through the different stages, which are to move it to ready, and then ultimately trigger it to start working. And that was fine. There was a little bit of work that I had to do there. I had to go into groups. I had to create the group. I had to find all the computers that I wanted to add to that group. Once I had that information, I could then go in and create a deployment plan, and I could associate that deployment plan with the step that I want to do, and then also with the group that I wanted to be taken on. And then optionally, I would be able to add a schedule to say that I want this thing to happen every week, every 2 weeks, etc. So what we decided within the last release of Chocolatey Central Management is that we can improve on that. Again, we've got all the foundational aspects of Chocolatey Central Management in play, that we can now make it much easier to create that deployment plan for that use case that I've just talked through. So I'm going to go on, I'm going to take a bit of action just to delete that one, just so we can have just the one thing that we're looking at here. So let's imagine that scenario again. I know that I want to take one piece of action on my machine being the CCM demo machine that I'm using here. So this time, rather than going into groups and checking for if I have a group that's already got that one computer in it, or to check to see, or to actually go ahead and create the group and add that computer into it, let's flip it on its head and say, well, I already know where I want that action to be taken. So I can go ahead and find the CCM demo machine within my list of computers. And what I can do instead is I can create a new deployment plan directly from this context. So rather than having to jump through all those hoops to create the group, to add the computers to the group, etc., I can just say, create me a new deployment plan from this context. So I'll click on this one. And what this is going to do is, behind the scenes, it's going to do all of that work that I would have had to do manually myself before. So I've already got a new group that was created specifically for this context, which was the CCM demo machine that I wanted to create it for. So at this point, I can get again, so I can choco install winderstat. Oh, I can't even. Apologies, my fingers were on the wrong part of my keyboard. I'm going to try that again. Winderstat. Okay, so and at that point, I can just hit save, and all of those manual steps I would have had to had to do previously have now been condensed into that one action based on the context of what it is I was trying to achieve. And we've introduced that concept of the creation of a deployment plan into multiple different areas of the Chocolatey Central Management user interface. So, as an example, let's say that we did have a piece of software that was outdated. Now, again, I don't have any computers that are outdated here, but I would ask you to imagine that, let's imagine that the Google Chrome package was outdated. What would happen here under this context is it would allow me to create a deployment plan specifically for that Google Chrome package, and it would already know all the computers that that piece of software was outdated on. So in one click, you can create a single deployment plan that has the action, which is to upgrade the Google Chrome package, and it would take, the action would be taken on the target computers, which is where all of those, for all of the computers that that package is currently outdated on. So it's a single operation that encompasses multiple pieces of information that you would otherwise had to have gone to find out all of that information for yourself. So it's I would have loved to have showed you that in action, but again, because of the slightly um, uh, fake data that I've got on here at the minute, I'm not in a position to show you that one. But it does, I hope, illustrate the power that comes with the ability to create a Chocolatey Central Management deployment plan from those different contexts. So another context that can be entirely useful is up here, is what I described before was, you want to take the action to upgrade a single bit of outdated software on all of the machines that that software is currently outdated on. But going up to the next level, you can then create a single deployment plan that upgrades all outdated software for all of the computers that those pieces of software are currently installed on. So imagine the scenario that you might have 5, 10, 15 pieces of currently outdated pieces of software, all of which are installed on different machines. With a single click, you can say upgrade outdated software. And it gives you a little bit of a warning because it's going to, this operation doesn't take a long time to complete, but it's still an operation that you want to go into um, knowing what's going to happen. And this will ultimately say that it can't do it because, again, in the context that I have here, it doesn't have any of those pieces of software as being outdated. But it would create a single deployment plan with multiple steps within that deployment plan, each targeting a separate group of computers. And the end result is that all of those outdated pieces of software are upgraded on all of those computers in one deployment plan. Okay, so it's again an entirely useful piece of functionality that was entirely possible in the previous earlier versions of Chocolatey Central Management, but we've taken those building blocks and we've made it so that in a single click you can get all of that information and all of that work done for you without the need for you to do it and for you to take the action on it. Okay. And the other context that you can create deployment plans from is right here on the groups. So if you've already got groups created, then you can go to the actions menu here and create deployment plan, create new deployment plan. So what in this context, we haven't told it the operation that we want to do, but so we need to fill in this piece of information. But the select target groups has already been selected for you. So the support group that I clicked on before is already there, ready to be used, and all you need to do is provide the deployment step information. Now, there are certain areas where we haven't provided the ability to create deployment plans from, but again, it's those building blocks. So now that we have all of the information, that you'll see us adding in an ability to create deployment plans from different areas of the Chocolatey Central Management user interface in future versions. So we're taking that, again, that functionality, that base functionality, and then building up on top of it to provide the additional functionality that our customers and our users are asking for. So that was the big driving force behind the creation of the 0.12.0 release of Chocolatey Central Management. There was some other functionality that we added at the same time. And again, it's just because we'd already had some of the core functionality there, so we just added it the next level up. So, for example, there, let's say you wanted to duplicate this group. In previous versions of Chocolatey Central Management, you would have had to create the group yourself and then go and re-find all of the computers that are in that group. Maybe you to only add one additional one or to remove one specific one. Now we've added the ability to duplicate those groups in a way that just immediately adds all the same computers into that group, and then you can tinker with it to add and remove the additional computers that you need to as part of that. So again, core functionality was already there. We're just bringing that functionality out in a way that makes it less click intensive to get to where we need to be at the end of the day. So I think those were the main features that we added within the 0.12.0 release. So I'll just go through a couple of some of the improvements just while we've got some time here. One of the ones that I just thought made sense is that we provided a group details page. So why is that important? Well, in the previous version of Chocolatey Central Management, the groups page was here, and you could see what all the groups that you had on your system. But in order to find out what computers were in that group, you would have had to go into the edit screen to then see on this page these are all the machines that are, or computers that are currently in that group. So the introduction of the group details page means that you can see all of that information in one place. So you can see down here, these are all the computers that are in this group. But because of the way that groups are made up, where a group can contain different subgroups, again, we've provided all that information here at the same time. So you can see what groups are contained within a group. You see all the top level information about whether this group is enrolled or not enrolled, etc., and what computers are opted into and out to of Chocolatey Central Management, total number of computers within the group, etc. And then one of the big things that I've liked in this last release of Chocolatey Central Management is the ability to navigate between different contexts. So previously, it wasn't possible because of the lack of the computer details page, the lack of group details page. It wasn't, you couldn't go to a computer details page because that navigation wasn't there. So what we've tried to provide here is the ability to quickly swap between one context and another. And that's especially important when you understand that the context of the creation of those deployment plans is now incredibly important. And that was the one thing that I I'm looking to expand on again in another new release of Chocolatey Central Management. And you actually saw me looking for it there. So now that we've got to this computer details page, I've got the action up at the top here to create a new deployment plan because of that context that I've just driven to. But what I would like to see, is the ability to create those same deployment plans from this context. So while I could get the creation of a deployment plan from a group on the groups page, I can't do the same thing when within the context of this page. I would like to be able to see that same option here as well. That's something we spoke about at the time of the last release of Chocolatey Central Management, but we didn't quite make it in time. But just stubbing out those actions and making them consistent across all of the contexts that we now have available, that's something I'm looking forward to putting into one of the upcoming releases of Chocolatey Central Management. I realize I'm coming up on time a little bit, so I'll pick maybe one more improvement that I did like that we got out the door in the last release, and then I'll ask Paul to come back on and we can have a chat and close out. So the one that I'm going to pick is which one? Information about the number. Yeah, it's not. I was going to say it's a silly little one, but it's really not. It's important, and it's very important. So on this dashboard page, we have the concept of what I refer to as KPIs, key performance index, key performance indexes for Chocolatey Central Management. How many packages do we have installed? How many of those packages are outdated? How many computers are stale? How many deployment plans do we have active? And how many deployment plans do we have? All of this information is vital to the usage of Chocolatey Central Management within your organization. Now, previously, what would happen is there was no indication of the last time that those KPIs had been updated on this running instance of Chocolatey Central Management. Those KPIs are updated in the background on a set schedule, but there was no indication on the page as to when that had last happened. So now what we did is we added in this information and made it front and center on the dashboard page. So if you keep this page on maybe a central screen within your organization, you've now got an indication of when was that information last updated. So in my case, it was updated about a minute and a half ago, and then what we also want to be able to do is the natural progression from that. Again, building blocks, foundational movements across the different functionality, is we want this to be updated at the same time. So in the background, this page would just be automatically updated, or provide the ability to have a refresh button directly on the page to update just the KPI information on the page. So it's these kind of incremental steps that you can look for coming through and made available in a future version of Chocolatey Central Management. So I hope that was useful. I've just seen a question come through from Ryan, so I'll maybe take a quick swig of drink and then I'll attempt to answer it because I've got a bit of a niggling cough happening at a second. So just give me 1 second. So the question that Ryan's asking is: could the KPIs be grouped by packages, deployment plans, etc.? What would that look like? Possibly. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to there, Ryan. But the short answer is all of the information that you're seeing there, and all of the information that you can see across the different screens, all of that is available for querying. So there's off the top of my head, I'm almost certainly going to say that what you're asking for can be done. I'm just not exactly clear on what that is. So I'm not going to say it's not possible, but it would need another discussion outside of this live stream maybe to get to the bottom of that. So with that, I'm going to invite Paul back on. There he goes. Any questions on any of that, Paul, or anything you wanted to discuss about any of that?
I think Ryan might be alluding to that. You want to, so we've got their total installed packages for everything on the Chocolatey Central Management monitors. And I'm guessing here because I haven't spoke to Ryan, but perhaps what he's looking for is if we can group that down. So maybe by group, maybe you want, let's say, the finance department. What's the total installed packages across the finance department? What are the total unique installed packages? So all those kind of KPIs that you could maybe select on the dashboard, some filters for. So you could maybe say, these groups or this group or these deployments that have just passed through. So you could maybe again have a deployment that's upgraded some software that was outdated, and then the KPIs would be different from that one than it would be for other ones, for example. So that might be what Ryan's referring to.
Okay.
So maybe filtering on the dashboard to be able to change all of those metrics.
One of the things that we have spoken around, and we haven't taken it on, we haven't added it to any sort of future roadmap yet. But what I will say about this sort of thing is that we can go into this and think we know exactly what people are looking for, and we're going to create a KPI and add it to this dashboard because we know exactly what people want. But 9 times out of 10, we don't do exactly what they want. So what we have spoken around is the concept of being able to widgetize something like the dashboard. So we provide the functionality for them to query the information specifically that they're interested in, and then control the KPIs on their own dashboard. So that's something that we have spoken about, but that hasn't been added to any sort of short term, medium term, or even long term roadmap just yet. But again, all of that information is there. It would just be a case, just be a case of exposing that in a way that was queryable and configurable for the end user as well. So that's something that, rather than trying to second guess all the KPIs that people want, we just provide them the ability to create their own. Would be an idea.
Okay. So I think as you mentioned, Gary, we're coming up to the end there. There's no questions in the chat at the moment. So I am going to. I think we should just close out. I think it's again, it's important just to kind of stress what we said at the beginning, that our journey in WCAG compliance is a journey, and this is the start of it. And in subsequent versions, we will be completing that journey, and we will get compliance for the Chocolatey Central Management product. And the incorporation of Choco theme as well makes it our products more consistent in design, look, and feel. Steph and the rest of the team have put a lot of work into this particular release, as I'm sure Gary will not talk about because it's there's been a lot of work going into this. Some frustrations. It's just the same with any kind of software development, but we've got there. And the release will actually be coming out shortly. Now, we don't have a date for the release at the moment. We're still kind of tidying up a few things, and fixing a few issues that have cropped up with the redesign. But the release will be out very shortly, and we'll announce that in the usual channels. So just make sure you're uh, subscribe to our Twitter, subscribe to our Google Groups notifications as well, and you'll get all of those announcements coming through there in the kind of usual way. So I just want to say thank you to Gary for taking us through the demos today and giving us more information on what Chocolatey Central Management, the changes to it, in terms of the user interface, and also in terms of the functionality that we looked at today as well. We are excited about the journey towards WCAG compliance. It is interesting, it's exciting, and it means a lot of changes to Chocolatey Central Management, which it's always good when you're kind of moving things forward and bringing that consistent design together. It's exciting to see it happening. As I mentioned at the start as well, and I'm just going to pop it onto the screen while I'm talking about it. I did talk about the survey, the live stream feedback survey. There, it's there. Give me 1 second. There we go. Yes, so I'll put the survey on screen there. We'd really appreciate you completing that. We really want to make sure our content that we're producing is what you want to see. You can find the link in the description to it, as well as obviously you've got it on screen there. It's ch0.co/stream survey. Get notified of all of the great chocolate content by joining our community hub on Discord. You can subscribe to us on YouTube and make sure you click that notification bell, because that way you get notifications when we're streaming. You can follow us on Twitter or X, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Twitch. All the links for that, you've seen some of them on stream today, but they're also on chocolatey.org, our homepage, chocolatey.org, and all the way to the bottom of that page, you'll find the links to all of our social media places. As I said, you'll also find it in the description as well. So our next live stream is Unpacking Software on 19th of September at 4 p.m. UTC. Join us for news, chat, and opinion. Myself and Gary will be on there, and Stevie will be on there as well. So yeah, all things software and software management. We also produce that as a podcast too, so you can listen to that at your leisure, driving to work or getting the train to work, wherever you listen to podcasts. So we hope to see you there on that live stream, and thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. Take care, and bye-bye.